NC State broke. ACC here to help. ACC doomsday. Not so fast, my friends.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Thursday opening sponsor is Gametime. The Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, as always, apply. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, we've spent a large part of the last 2-ish years talking about conference realignment and where that would place NC State and subsequently the ACC Conference as a whole. On Thursday morning, Jim Phillips says, what was that y'all was talking about? The ACC in ESPN signs not a 1-year extension, not a 3-year extension, a 9-year extension of the TV rights with ESPN. And this could potentially keep the conference, well, in addition to the grant of rights, help to keep the conference intact all the way out to 2036. And of course, we know Clemson and Florida State have been two of the schools with the biggest proponent of trying to get out of the ACC. Kenton, does this deal help to keep them in place for a bit longer?
Well, first thing first, I imagine Jim Phillips in his office listening to the new Kendrick Lamar playing peekaboo, saying, what they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. And let me tell you why. I want to clean up one thing you said there, Grayson, in terms of the language. They did not sign an extension. ESPN just picked up an option, which anybody with two good eyes who can do math knew was coming.
Right.
Like the ACC is, I'm not going to go as far as to say being taken advantage of. I won't go that far. But I will say,
a little bit.
Okay, maybe a little. But what I will say is ESPN is coming out the winners by a mile in this deal. It's not even close. This isn't even the type of deal where I'm like, without Florida State and Clemson, the realities of this deal do change. I promise you, when you look at the money they're giving as opposed to what they're getting back, it's not within the realm of feasibility to even say, well, yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense to get rid of this deal. I guess it makes sense to dump all these teams. So with that in mind, the extension was coming. It was always going to be here. And you know, there are many things that people wish for and hope for that aren't really going to happen. And you know, it ain't really on the brink of happening. But we can all do that, I guess. But to that end, don't do it on something as frivolous and useless as the ACC disbanding. I'm using up all my wishes on me and Megan Thee Stallion going on a date one day. That's where all of my this thing has no proof that it will come into fruition one day. But I still believe it. I believe that that's going to happen for me. Okay? Use yours on something like that. Something that's useful to your life. Don't use it on, all of a sudden ESPN is going to destroy this thing. And here's one thing that I need Wolfpack fans to understand in particular. I don't want us to be deluded about who we are and where we are, okay? Realistically, if the ACC were to fold and the Wolfpack we're going to have to go elsewhere, I think the Big 12 would want us. I believe so. That's it. And here's the problem with only having one suitor. If there's only one suitor, they know you have to take whatever they offer.
Right.
You don't want to be in that position if you're the Wolfpack. I understand the ACC has not done right by us for decades. I get it. I'm not arguing against that. Trust me, I've understood the history. I've learned the history. I've went back. I get it. I'm just saying this deal being cemented and keeping the ACC together, keeping a band together for at least another decade, it's good ball. It's really good ball for NC State. Trust me on this one.
Yeah, I want to read a little bit of an excerpt from an article from Sports Illustrated. It says, quote, ESPN had an option to extend its deal with the ACC, and not so surprisingly, It did. This means the contract with the ACC was due to expire in 2027, will now extend out to 2036. The extension agreement is not much different from the existing contract, although it may mean the ACC has a better chance of keeping Florida State and Clemson, which have been pursuing legal means to leave the conference. The extension paves the way for the league to potentially finalize a settlement with Clemson and Florida State that would keep them in the conference under possible alterations to the conference grant of rights and the league's revenue distribution structure, as Yahoo Sports reported back in September. The sides, negotiating for months now, are inching closer to a resolution, unquote. So, yes, kind of also summarizing what Kenton was just telling you, this is a good thing for NC State. It's a good thing for the ACC conference as a whole. We can kind of put to bed all the hubbub that was taking over the offseason the last couple of years. The ACC is not going anywhere, at least not for another, I don't know, probably like 8 to 9 years. The ACC is here to stay. It's a power conference, and it should be treated as such. I want to talk about what you said there, Kenton, that the ACC has not done right by us. I also feel that ESPN has not exactly done right by the ACC. We know that the ESPN is heavily in bed with the SEC and even sometimes the Big Ten. Those are the darlings. They're the super conferences. They get all the money. They get all the love. They get all the attention. The ACC and ESPN have been paired up now for quite some time, and they don't get nearly the same love and attention. Now, why is that? Success in the field and the money, all that. But for ESPN and the ACC to come to another agreement here, extending out another 9 years, I would like to see better representation for the ACC, better representation for schools like NC State. I think that is something that I have my eye on moving forward here.
Absolutely. And another thing that I have my eye on out of this deal is that those court cases. As of now, there are a total of 4 court cases going on because of the money situation and who's making what or whatever the case may be. And a big part of this was where the ACC doesn't even have a solidified deal. That was a big part of Florida State and Clemson's cases against the ACC. So now to see that Jim Phillips can walk in court and say, what was that you all were referencing? We don't have a what exactly? Yeah. He's doing the thing. He's doing the thing because this really is a moment where, objectively speaking, the ACC is on secure ground. They were always on the secure ground because, again, ESPN had no motivation to give the ACC up. That's the thing that I don't think a lot of people realize. If they were to let the ACC walk, anybody who deals in any way with these big type of major contracts was screaming from the mountaintops, ESPN would be a fool to let them go. Although they may not be the darlings, although they might not be gathering the largest draws in comparison to what? The game was the 4th most watched football, or I'm sorry, not sporting event. It was the most watched sporting event, but it was like the 3rd most watched television program, period, in 2023. Like, period. There was nothing that people wanted to watch more outside of 2 or 3 things. So sure, in comparison to the 3rd most watched thing in America, yeah, you're not doing great. But you know what that still leaves room for? A really great time. I know if I went on stage with a bunch of the world's strongest men, they would embarrass me in terms of lifting. It would not be close. However, I know if I was to walk into an average gym amongst average people, I'd look like a god amongst men. That is how this deal works out. The ACC's numbers in terms of viewership, they were not world-beating according to Big Ten and SEC standards. They are world-beating compared to every other damn program that's out there.
I also saw in this article references a Yahoo report which mentions the possibility of scheduling arrangements, including the 3 biggest brands, so to speak, within the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami, being that they would face Notre Dame more frequently. 2 of the 3 of those would play the Irish every year. Your thoughts on that, Kenton? Being that Notre Dame is still using us, I can't believe that the ACC is allowing them to do so, but here we are.
Well, the ACC is happy to be everybody's side chick, I guess.
I guess.
I'm not even going to say what I want to say there because certain people would get offended, but I will say this. You have some pride, ACC. Have some dignity. do not make these teams play Notre Dame every year in order to do what? To get their revenue up? To get those individual teams' revenue up? How fair is that to the rest of the conference? Stand up. Y'all be weak in the knees, ACC. Stand up, please. Have some, put some gumption in your voice. Get it. Whatever it is, stop it. Stop. You've already tried your hardest to capitulate to these universities. You've already said, hey, we're going to edit our revenue so that we reward winning. And if you get to the postseason and do good things, we'll reward you for it. Who made more money this year, Grayson? Florida State or literally any team that went to a bowl game?
Yeah, literally any team that made a bowl.
Well, no, Grayson. So we're not being fair. I know that Florida State mentioned SMU in their lawsuit and said this team being here diminishes our brand. So I know that they outperformed little old SMU.
No.
What? So
hate to break it to you.
So again, what can they, at this point, this is not even capitulate. This is downright bending the knee, kissing the ring, saying, please, whatever you so do need. This is begging at levels that you got to go way back to when Sam Cooke and all those guys were singing with perms to like fully understand this level of begging. Like, please love us, care for us anyway. This is foolish. It would be foolish for them to make that agreement.
There's certainly still a little bit of nasty business going on, but nonetheless, the ACC is here, and it is here to stay, likely for the next 8 to 9 years. ESPN picks up the option and extends the deal with the ACC all the way out to 2036 in TV rights. More conversations certainly to come on this front, but coming up next, we're diving into a whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Thursday sponsor is Gametime. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans is simply unmatched. I certainly remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live. It's a memory I'll never forget. This year, Gametime makes it even easier than ever before to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature called Gametime Picks. It filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, and you can focus on what matters, being there. I used Gametime Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game before, and it could not have been easier. I found a super deal that gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I could even preview my seat in the app, so I knew exactly what to expect upon arriving. The all-in pricing is a game changer as well. 0 surprise fees at checkout. And plus, knowing my tickets are backed by the Gametime guarantee gives me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Middle portion of our Thursday show. Now time for a whole lot of nothing, a whole lot of something. 3 topics. We'll tell you exactly where we stand on them. And heads up, NC State men's basketball has still not been winning recently, so these are not getting any easier to read. Our first one. So NC State played in Durham on Monday night, 10-point loss, but they hit 10 of 22 from beyond the perimeter, 45%. Kenton, is this a fluke, or has this been possible the entire time? Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of nothing. In the words of the great philosopher, poet, and wordsmith Sean Carter, you could try to change, but that's just the top layer. Homie, you was who you was when you got here. The reality is NC State is who they are. This basketball team, they are who they are, and that's okay. You have to be okay with the fact that, hey, this is who we are, because if you walk into every game saying, oh, man, I'm expecting NC State to shoot the way they did in this game, you're going to be sorely disappointed. You know how I know you're going to be sorely disappointed? You want to know how I know? You're going to be flabbergasted, just downright crying, shaking, and throwing up if you expect this to be the norm. Grayson, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they not start off the game 7 of 11 from deep?
I believe they did.
They finished 10 of 22,
yeah,
which means 3 of 11 the rest of the way. Listen, I'm trying to tell you right now, don't expect it. Don't get too attached. to that shooting percentage. And I'm going to leave it at that.
The sad part of this is it feels a lot like a fluke. And there's been several games this year, we've already talked about this ad nauseum, that like 2 more threes would have won you the game, or even just one. Because we had a lot of single possession or very closely 2 possession games that ended up in a loss. I'm not so concerned with hitting 10 and it kind of feeling like, wait a minute, where's this team been all this year? It's nice, don't get me wrong, because to go on the road, especially against Duke, who's a very good defensive team, to light it up from 3 in the first half is like, we're not actually going to do this, are we? Well, we didn't, but it felt nice to like give you the idea that we might. But the thing is like, there's nothing that would convince us that could potentially be consistent because it hasn't been all year. So for me, it just felt like a hot night. And I shouldn't even say night because it wasn't in the second half. It was just a hot half. And could you potentially replicate that in some senses moving forward? Maybe. I mean, it's not for lack of trying because they've had open looks this year and haven't been able to bear it. Maybe it's the optics of shooting in a smaller gym that helped them out. I don't know what it was, but unfortunately, it does not feel sustainable because the shooting has been nowhere near consistent on this team. So for me, it's a whole lot of nothing. Second one here. This one sucks. If the season ended today for NC State men's basketball, they would be statistically out of the ACC tournament 1 year after winning it. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
I just want to let y'all know that Grayson picked these. I had nothing to do with the selection of these. I told him I wanted to be nice, and I'm joking. But in all seriousness, this is a whole lot of something because, I sit here wondering how this team has such a fall from grace in such a short span of time. And I get it, right? I get it. If we look back at last year, that team wasn't a dynamo all season. There was a reason that if you put $100 down on NC State to reach the Final Four, what was it? Like around this time exactly last year, congratulations, you might not be working this year. You'd be chilling somewhere on an island. But the reality of that thing works out in this way. I could not have seen certain players not taking a step forward or taking a step back in major ways. There were so many players from last year's team that, they come back this year and you say to yourself, man, if he can just get 1 or 2 things figured out, he'll be perfectly fine. And lo and behold, not only did they not figure out those 1 or 2 things, it looks like they didn't train their strengths either. Yeah. And I hate to call out specific players, so I'm not going to today, but there were guys last year who were locked down defensively. It doesn't seem to be that way this year. There were guys last year that every time they're on the court, positive things were happening. They found ways to positively impact the offense. That mojo seems to be gone this year. So, I knew with new talent coming in, it was going to take some time to gel. I just couldn't have predicted that guys who were double machines elsewhere would come here and, now they need to go see the Wizard and get some heart. That's a whole lot of something.
My thing is like, obviously more so now than ever before, college sports, not just in basketball, but football, baseball, insert sport here, everything's going to be very year to year with the use of the portal, the influence of NIL, everything's going to be very different from year to year. That being said, damn, is it different for us this year? I think the most frustrating thing about this is we talked a lot about the momentum of winning an ACC title, going to the Final Four, getting that national exposure, and you hope to take advantage of that and capitalize in the portal and capitalize in NIL. We're 9-11 right now, and you feel like all that momentum that should have been taken advantage of, completely punted. It's nowhere to be found now. It's gone. And so now it's like to experience those highs last year in March and April to come right back down to earth in like literally the blink of an eye. It feels very NC State-ish, and NC State fans know what I mean when I say that. It feels pretty much on brand, but it is no less disappointing because good grief. I mean, in one calendar year, you had the highest of highs that any of us have felt in 37 years. And then it's right back to, are we even going to make the ACC tournament of any other tournaments? The ACC Conference tournament. PU, man. It's so hard to watch. It's so hard to stomach. It's just so very disappointing. And so that's why you see the word apathy thrown around. You see the crowds at the Lenovo Center They're nowhere near what they used to be. Even in the early years of Keats and the back half of Gottfried, we would play weeknight games because I was there. We'd play weeknight games in PNC, and there'd be humongous crowds. And I'm talking 9 p.m. tips as well. Everyone likes to use the 9 p.m. excuse now, but that's because they don't want to go watch mediocre basketball. Let's call it for what it is.
Call a spade a spade.
So, it's just so disheartening to see the program just plummet that fast in less than a year. Yeah, I mean, I'm all out of words here. It's a whole lot of something. Last one here to brighten the mood, NC State baseball, which is now just nearly 2 weeks away from first pitch. They enter the 2025 season tied for the 10th best odds in the country to win the College World Series. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of something, but I have a caveat here. It's a whole lot of something in a good way, but I have a caveat here. Elliot Avid, if you can hear the sound of my voice, I am begging you, please do whatever it is that you do when there are no expectations of the team. Do whatever it is that you do when your team barely made the tournament and got swept in the first round the year before. If you can hear the sound of my voice, Elliot Avid, please save us. Please do something good this year. Because, as Grayson has warned us up plenty of times, every time that Elliot Avid has made Omaha, what happened the next year, Grayson?
Doesn't make the tournament.
Doesn't make the tournament. So, Elliot Avid, if you can hear the sound of my voice, America believes in you. The bettors, the sharps believe in you. The people with the money believe in you. And damn it, I believe in you. I ain't got no money. You know what I mean? I ain't like those guys. But I believe in you, Elliot Avid. Please do something great this year. Because, again, I think NC State baseball is quietly becoming a banner program. And not just a banner program at NC State, a banner program for the ACC. Yeah. I really do see that as a thing that's coming and happening. And so what builds that more than anything else is not success here and there in pockets. It's consistency. Yeah. It's, hey, we shocked the world last year. We were the white hat last year. Everybody was rooting for. Now the success is in perpetuity. Now people don't like us. Now we're the empire, the dynasty, the ones that people are like, damn it, is NC State back in Omaha? We might as well name this thing the NC State Invitational. So please, Elliot Avid, come on now. I know you're almost done, brother. I know you've been running hard for a long time, but in the words of that old bald, dirty foot clubber, not the degenerate gambling one, the one that was in Toronto for a long time, you got one more in you. You got one more in you, Elliot.
NC State baseball and Elliot Avid, they have been a model of success for, I think, 29 years now?
Yeah.
Don't take that for granted. I know I say that a lot on here, but NC State baseball is one of the top programs in the country, especially considering that they have done so much with so little. And we talked about the facility upgrades that are on the way. You certainly look to be getting some recruiting bumps here in the near future. For this team to have the 10th best, tied for the 10th best odds in the country, it's a really big deal. And it shows a great deal of respect for the program itself, the roster they return, the experience they're returning, especially in that pitching staff. There's a lot of excitement surrounding NC State baseball right now. And I think there's probably a heightened sense of that because football didn't go well. Basketball's not going well. Westmore and the ladies are going really well. We're going to talk about them in just a second. But the E word is creeping up on NC State baseball, expectations. There are expectations on this team to essentially save the fan base, bring us some joy. I'll tell you this team is very much capable of doing so. I think you still have some questions about the lineup. Some platooning will have to go down, but the pitching staff on paper, they have the talent to take you as far as you want to go. Starters, the middle relief guys, and the back end of the bullpen, they have the talent to take you as far as you possibly want to go this season. Don't be afraid of expecting greatness from this team. They're capable of it. They're going to have to prove it, of course, but tied for the 10th best odds in the country to win the whole damn thing, I might do some sprinkling. It's plus 5,000 on good old FanDuel. Do yourself some sprinkling if you so choose. Coming up next, we are talking some women's basketball. Westmore and the ladies are actually playing right now, so we're going to do a live recap, something new for us. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple minutes of our Thursday show. So women's basketball is actually playing right now as we speak. They're on the road at Wake Forest, and it is a B2A performance. As I am reading this to you, it is currently 67-43. They're in the waning minutes of the third quarter. In that third quarter, NC State has outscored Wake Forest 20 to, drum roll please, 2. Wake Forest currently has 2 points in the entirety of the third quarter, and there's a minute and 31 seconds left within said corner. Now, I know the first half was close, so I was sitting here tracking it as we were recording the first couple segments. NC State is playing on the road. You know, it's an inferior opponent. Wake Forest is not having a good year. It looked to be a little bit of an episode of kind of going through the motions on the road, playing with some food a little bit, but then they hit that switch. They outscored them in the second quarter 26-16. The guard play has taken over. I see Zoe Brooks has 15, Sinai Rivers has 13. It's kind of crazy that you don't need as much from Isaiah James, and you're still whooping the wheels off of him.
Yeah, Tilda Trigger, first double-digit game of her career. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. You know, I'm sorry, second double-digit game of her career. She put up 10 against Stanford earlier this year. But, you know, this is a hell of a time, and 10 against Louisville as well, so third. But either way you cut or slice it, when you have the young Bucks playing well, right? I thought that Zam Jones was going to be vitally important to this team, and she has been. But Tilda Trigger playing as much as she has due to some injuries that were sustained by Maddie Weger and company, you know, she's had to play a lot. Her and Collier have been really good down low. And I'll tell you what, this type of performance, like you said, Grayson, came out a little sluggish, came out a little slow. But this third quarter shows who this team can be. When they're firing, when they're rolling, when they're locked in, when everybody's getting in the stands and they're cleaning the boards. I mean, 22 on your home court. That's hey, let's just be glad Wake Forest is really good sports about this, because, boy, I'll tell you what, the wrong team missed flagrant 2 times. So, you know, more power to Westmoreland women's basketball team for going for and what very likely looks like accomplishing 6 straight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak too soon. The third quarter is now 22-6. The total score 69-47. So it would certainly feel like NC State is on their way to a 20-point win. If I jinxed us, you know where it started. It was right here. You can blame it on me. I'll take all the heat for it. I don't see Westmore allowing that to happen. So I'm going to preemptively scribble a W over this one, and we're going to do some looking ahead. As an NC State fan, you should never, ever do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. The month of February for this squad is a gauntlet. I referenced it earlier in the week. Let me tell you about it right now. So coming up on Monday, they have the Play for K game. It's in Reynolds, but you're playing 10th-ranked Duke. You better show up for that one. After that, you go down to Tallahassee, and you play the 25th-ranked Florida State Seminoles. Then you play Miami. Miami was ranked earlier in the season, so they've had a good deal of success as well. Then you go down to Chapel Hill and play the Lady Dirty Feet Club. They're currently 15th in the country. Then you play Georgia Tech, 20th in the country. Then you play Notre Dame, 3rd in the country. And then you round out with Wake and SMU. That's a gauntlet. You play 1, 2, 3. You play 5 ranked teams in your next 6 games. I think we've learned a lot about this team so far, but that's really going to get put to the test here in the next couple weeks.
In the words of Kendrick Lamar, have you ever caught a fade and ran 3 more back-to-back? Because that's what this team is doing, you know. And, you know, this is a really good team. This team, again, they're getting better, and the younger players are getting confidence. They're gaining experience and confidence. I'm excited to see what this team is made of through this stretch. I'm excited to see it. Whether or not I look at this team at the end of it, I'm like, ugh, that was tough. Maybe we aren't the team we thought we were. Or whether I look at this team and say, hey, it's time, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and put some more on them going back to the Final Four. Because, I mean, I'm not saying that y'all heard it here first that NC State was going to the Final Four last year, but there was one podcast that saw the bracket and said, hey, I'm pretty sure NC State's going to the Final Four this year. You know, not saying that it rhymed with mocked on Wolfpack, but, you know.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of those guys. So, you know, I'm very excited to see what this team has through February, because it's going to tell us a lot. It's going to tell us a lot. And even more important than that, even more important than what February tells us or doesn't tell us about this team, I think it's very important to not go into March with a feeling of we're untouchable. Right. And then you find yourself getting papped out early in the first round because, you know, you just didn't think that it could be you. it's better to learn. Even if you win all those games, I highly doubt that there'll be a bunch of blowouts. And if it is a bunch of blowouts, congratulations. This team is one of the best of all time, probably. So, I think that this team they may take some lumps, they may take some bruises, they may get some big wins. But one thing I know about this team is they're going to bounce back, they're going to be resilient, and they're going to fight.
Yeah, there's certainly no time to feel like your stuff doesn't stink right now. You got a tough road ahead, but this team does continue to play better and better and better as they get further down the stretch. We've talked about how guard play has been the main engine under the hood for this team. That certainly has to continue. But I think when you're looking at Collier, you're looking at Awo, and you're looking at Trieger, who's getting better and better, adjusting to a new position, perhaps they can be good enough to, again, take this team as far as they want to go. That remains to be seen. And they have a lot of tough tests here over the month of February, but you certainly feel good about the direction they're heading in right now. Again, don't want to speak too soon. They're on their way to 6 straight wins in ACC play. If they somehow blow this game, I will eat my entire shoe on Friday's show. That is my promise to you. That'll do it for us here on Thursday. I'm not going to let Kenton comment on that. Feel free to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Friday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.